KZNS AM Salt Lake City and KSL FM HD2 Salt Lake City Midvale. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Bryan Fischer is going to join us coming up here in a moment from Sports Illustrated, covering college football and college athletics overall, as Matt Wells, former coach at Utah State, Texas Tech, hanging out with us as spring ball's just around the corner. Are you a fan of the one window for the transfer portal?
Well, I am now for coaches in terms of roster management. I mean, what a juggling act and a joke that was to have two of them. And, okay, so you get through this first January portal time or December portal time, what it used to be, and then you're like, okay, I think we have this roster unless so-and-so leaves in April, right? And the next, and then you had to re-recruit your players a whole nother time. And so that – and add players at that point, and then spring ball's over. And so we got to get the calendar right. I say we, college football, that, and every coach has echoed that pretty much. I'm not the first to say it, but the calendar has got to get under control.
Well, Bronco was talking about the fact that Utah State's academic calendar starts early in January, and so with the normally he said I'm all about the one window, but he said our classes start so early that we've got to find a way to – we essentially have 72 hours to try to find a way to get people on campus and then get them into classes because it's nearly impossible.
Well, and that's going to be that's not going to be the same for everybody, different than the NFL, right? You have – I know Utah and Utah State both start early, and like Kansas State, where I just was, is not start until January 19th or the 20th. And the key to that is not just when the window is – the key to what he's probably referring to is getting kids into class.
Yep.
And then the drop add date is a week later, and then you're going to ask for grace. You're going to ask professors and deans and things like that for grace for these kids to get in because they're coming in just a little bit later. And so that's a real thing with it. But even at that, we got to get the calendar and the playoffs and all, and this has got to be a little bit less chaotic.
Yeah, no doubt. Bryan Fischer joins us. Scott Gerard alongside Matt Wells, former coach at Utah State, Texas Tech, and last year at Kansas State. Bryan Fischer from Sports Illustrated with us. Bryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Staying busy, that's for sure.
Well, there's never a dull moment in your world. Do you feel like there's any movement whatsoever? I saw that a bill's getting introduced, but are you feeling like there's any momentum at all for putting guardrails up with the NCAA and any help from Congress?
Oh, that's a $1 million question at this point. I think you talk with folks that either have been in the Hill or even folks on the Hill itself, and directly connected to a lot of senators out there and a lot of representatives, and there's some optimism, I guess, but I feel like we're almost kind of to the point of no return. I mean, a lot of these, a lot of folks are already, thinking about the re-election campaigns and what they're going to do for the next couple of years. So there's a lot going on in Washington. And I, wrote a column of this yesterday after the Trinidad Chambliss ruling. The NCAA really needs to kind of stop thinking that this is going to be a savior at some point in terms of Congress, and, start doing what they can to really control what's in their purview. Because at this point, I think it's almost going down, a road that is going to be difficult. And I understand that a lot of people in Congress are saying the right things, and they're promising a lot of things, and we've had certain bills get out of committee and even come close to reaching votes. But at this point, in terms of actually getting that over the line, getting an actual bipartisan solution, I just don't sense that we're any closer to that actually happening and transpiring than we were 6 months ago. And so I think for a lot of leaders in the NCAA, that's probably not what they want to hear, but that's kind of the state of play of things right now.
With Trinidad getting that extra year, what do you think of Ole Miss?
Oh, I think it's huge for them. Obviously, you look at their schedule, in the first month alone. I think you look at that, and it's not just the opener against Louisville. You want to have a veteran quarterback, and with so much change, obviously a lot of new coaches coming in there, especially on the offensive side of the ball. For Pete Goling to kind of turn this team over, to Trinidad, and he's a very gregarious young man. You can understand why he is a leader on that team. I think it was huge for that program, and that's another team, in the mix, certainly in the SEC. I don't know if they're going to be quite as good as they were last year. We can certainly see how that evolution occurs. But when you got a guy like that, opposing defensive coordinator's got a game plan consistently for every week, you can win a lot of games. And I would imagine Ole Miss is going to be right there in the end, having a pretty similar season to that they just had last year.
In talking to Coach Wells here, we were talking about Morgan Scalley and what it takes to go from being a good lieutenant to being a great general. And we've all assumed that Morgan will be great at it. I still believe Morgan will be great at it. But just how much expectations should we have, realistic expectations for the first year or two with Morgan as a head coach?
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I do think this is a transition that has been certainly in the works for a long time. He's really been preparing for this role, right? Not just in terms of actually putting it in writing that he was going to take over for Kyle, but I think mentally, he's kind of gone about things in terms of preparing, like, I am going to take over one day, and it can be certainly difficult when you get that elevation, and suddenly you're answering to 20 people are coming at you instead of just 5 or 10, and that'll be the thing. To kind of understand how that process works. I think the key in my mind, just in terms of the program and having success short term is, can you make sure that the recruiting gains that you've made these last couple of years, with the program, not only in the transfer portal, but with those high school guys, making sure those relationships are good, making sure those relationships keep rolling. And that to me is going to be the thing. Is recruiting going to stay at the same level, or maybe even elevate a little bit with some new energy, some new blood within the program? I think that's going to be key, especially given how difficult the Big 12 is nowadays. We all know it's almost a coin flip type of league, in terms of those fine margins. And so finding the right guys that not only fit your culture and fit your program, but can bring something to the table, in terms of the X's and O's as well. That's going to be key for this youth program under Morgan and moving forward for sure.
BYU is able to retain a lot of players coming back into next year, especially on the defensive side. Asking for another 11-1 season might be a bit too much to ask for, but what are realistic expectations for BYU next year?
Yeah, I kind of went out on a little bit of a limb, when they always ask us, to do our kind of like initial top 25s, right after the national title game. And this year at SI, we kind of did something a little different in terms of actually making our kind of early initial playoff brackets, and I put BYU in there. I think just in terms of scratching at the surface year after year, and I think that does mean a lot, and especially when you do consider that they are bringing back so many experienced and veteran guys. Now, yes, there's going to be some holes. There's going to be some things they got to figure out. Certainly in spring ball and going into the season in terms of some positions, but this looks like a veteran team primed to have that kind of breakthrough, and they have been scratching at the surface these last couple of years, getting ever so close to not only winning the Big 12, but getting into the playoff. And I think this year, especially with Notre Dame coming to town, a big marquee opponent, they've got the schedule to get over the hump and be a playoff team this year, especially given the way and the direction that Kalani has that program going.
Bryan, this is Matt Wells here. How you doing?
Doing well, Matt.
Good. Hey, let me ask you and just throw this out to you. You're a guy that's on the national scene in college football and all the Power 4 leagues. Give us a little bit of an idea with your conversations, probably on the record and off the record, just your view on the college football landscape and the calendar and some things that are going on. Where does it lie in maybe making it less chaotic for everybody involved and maybe a little bit more uniform in terms of your perspective?
Yeah, I think if you had to say what is the kind of big off-season conversation, really these next couple of months, there's several NCAA committees kind of devoted to this that are studying this and debating this. I think really industry-wide, whether it's ADs, commissioners, certainly coaches, everybody's kind of getting to the point where they have ideas on the calendar, and I think we're kind of getting to the point where we're talking about those ideas, and eventually there will be some movement. I know there's been certainly a lot of talk in terms of the calendar itself maybe moving up in terms of week 0. I think we're probably not quite ready to kind of commit to that. I think at this point, I think there are going to be some conversations with the broadcast partners that will have some impact on that I know a lot of the commissioners are keeping top of mind. But, look, I think that is the thing that everybody's going to be talking about really the next 6 to 8 months. I think really leading into the season, it's going to be, what does this league think of, things, and where do you want the transfer portals and what windows are go where? And so I think that's going to be really driving the conversation this offseason. We've kind of gone away. We've kind of at least had some sort of stability in terms of NIL and bring in the CSC and all that stuff. So I think now it really will turn that attention to what do the Power Four leagues in particular kind of want in terms of the football calendar, and how does that impact everything else?
Yeah, certainly the TV guys, as we all know, and those executives in terms of television have a huge say in college football as we all know it. What's the appetite for the playoffs, do you think, out there? Is there anything that can get done this summer? Do you think it'll get expanded, or are we going to stay the same? What's the landscape right now for that?
Yeah, I feel like we're on the same hamster wheel, and this has really been the case, I would say, for the last even longer than 6 months at this point. I think if you had to kind of poll a lot of the conferences, in terms of kind of just the general tenor of what they view the playoffs should be, I would say 90% of them out there are going to say, let's go ahead and move to 16. Let's add a couple of more first round games, maybe tweak the calendar a little bit in terms of where those are played and everything going on kind of in those early rounds. At least include a little bit more teams and kind of move that cut line, if you will, towards playoff inclusion a little bit further back. But at the end of the day, this is a Big Ten and SEC decision, and that's where the fracture is. And so I don't see the Big Ten giving in at this point. Maybe somebody can get to Tony Petitti and kind of shake him loose of all these terrible ideas like going to 24 teams. But at this point, they're pretty dug in the Big Ten, and so I think that kind of says, look, we're kind of going with the status quo right now, and until the Big Ten at least wants to come to the table, start compromising, talk with the SEC, and really get on the same page as the rest of college football. I don't see much movement, honestly, and I think we're going to be set at 12 for the foreseeable future as a result.
I don't pretend to know what the driving force is behind their reluctance to do that, but like as coaches look at it, and I know certainly from my experience, I look at it and go, man, the state of Texas has 16 playoff games. They'll play 16 until they crown a champion right around Christmas time, right, in the state of Texas, and they'll have one bye week, and you look at the FCS playoffs. I mean, why can't we get this thing to be crowned a champion right around the 1st of January, and maybe we start a week early and you still have one bye week, but to expand the playoffs. I guess that's mainly what a lot of coaches I know that I've talked to see, because you literally see it being done right now at other levels, and so I think that's certainly a big I think that's a big thing in the coaches right now, or a lot of coaches around the country, is why can't we expand just a little bit and back this thing up and get this thing to end, so then you can have a portal window and at least some semblance. Now, what you can't control is when coaches, are fired and hired and all that, right, in December. But my goodness, I mean, like game planning for a playoff game and conference championship games and portal and this and that. And I mean, it's all coming, at the same time. But man, I know that there's a huge appetite in everybody's mind in college football to get this calendar right. Bryan?
Well, yeah, and I think it's really going to kind of come to a head, this season. I think as we kind of live this year, obviously we're going back to more of a single bye week compared to the last couple of years where we've had to. So I think that's going to reinforce it, certainly with a lot of coaches for sure. But I think it will come to a head with the administrators dealing with the complaints from their coaches, certainly hearing it from their fans when injuries might crop up and have a bad season. And I think truly when we get into December and January, because of those long layoffs, I mean, I think you kind of already heard it, those complaints last year and this past season in terms of, all right, it's too long between the semifinals and the quarterfinals. Well, this year it's even longer. We're going to go back to January 25th to play the national title game. Even the Super Bowl is moving back to essentially this weekend, next year. So you're going to hear plenty of complaints, and I think it is going to kind of come to a head for a lot of folks and really register more than just kind of seeing it happen on the little calendar in front of them. It's going to register, as they get tired and as they kind of understand that, hey, something's got to change, and we kind of got to go back to how the sport was much more of a one-semester sport, in decades past.
Well, Bryan, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, and let's do it again here soon.
Absolutely. Great to jump on with you guys.
There he is, Bryan Fischer from Sports Illustrated, covering college athletics. All right, it really feels like, Coach, and Matt Wells joins us. Coach, it feels like coaches, if you just got a bunch of coaches in a room, you guys could figure this out pretty quick.
Well, I think we certainly have our ideas, but make no mistake about it, the people with TV, that's where the dollars are, in the administrations, and certainly there's people that know things that coaches don't know, and I think they're privy to things like that. But, you look at a simple calendar and you see it done in Texas and you see it done in the FCS, and why can't we do it? And so I think that's a take from a lot of coaches. I don't speak on behalf of everybody, but I know that that's a general consensus around there that, January 25th for the Natty, that's like, let's get this thing going and move on to next year. And
you got like 3 games being played over the span of, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know. It just seems like we're collectively dumber than we are on our own. It's just, it seems like there's easy solutions out there, but you're right, though. You know what? When ESPN and Fox and everybody else says, we're cutting you some rather large checks, and you're going to do what we tell you to do, you kind of have to step in line. Yeah. God bless America.
God bless it.
Hey, so as we talk about college football and we get ready for the start of the upcoming season and spring ball, what's this time of year like for a college football program when you're, the start of the semester, but spring ball's still about a month or two away? What's going on right now?
So February for all programs right now is these guys are getting back in the office. They are looking at self-scouts from last year. They're watching their tape from last year. It's good, bad, and the ugly. What are we keeping? What are we going to improve on? What are we throwing away? What are we throwing away? What are we adding? Looking at volume. A brand new staff, like we just talked about, at Utah, not so much. It's more installation. And so you have early morning runs, early morning lifts. The players are lifting, they're running, they're meeting voluntarily a lot.
Yeah.
They're in off-season workouts. Yeah. But they are. It's a time of installation. It's a time of, coordinators installing and teaching the rest of the coaches and the staff. And so you're in that time of February to the middle of March, and that's pretty. I think it's pretty common is what I was going to say for everybody. That's it. And the other thing that they're doing is a lot of them are doing professional development. They're going out and visiting an NFL staff or other college staffs that maybe they don't play in or a different league, and it's a defensive staff wanting to add a 3-safety scheme or a 3-down scheme into in a 3rd down package. It's offense wanting to add or improve the red zone package. So who was really good in red zone, you may go visit that team. So a lot of those opportunities, I think, going on right now at this time of the year.
I remember you told me, a few years ago, probably a lot of years ago, that Valentine's Day as a head coach was kind of your date where you felt like if you get past that day, your staff was going to be in place.
Pretty much.
Is that still the case, or is it?
Yeah. No, I think so. But, just flipping through Twitter this morning, you see some guys I just saw the SMU DCs going to the NFL, and so now Rhett Lashley, my friend, is, oh, man, I'm replacing a DC right in the middle of February. Now, if he has an internal candidate, a lot smoother transition. But I still stand by that. If you get to Valentine's Day as a head coach, usually high percentage you're going to retain that staff. Outside of maybe some young coaches or a young GA getting a chance to move on, maybe if there's some transition other places in the spring. But typically, most Division I schools in NFL, there's not going to be much transition after this time.
I want to be careful how I say this because obviously I'm not asking you to comment on the situation, but it seems like every now and then there's a weird situation that pops up, whether it's Michigan or maybe Petrino or something like that, and the ramifications and the dominoes that will come from that. I mean, Kyle goes to Michigan, and then all of a sudden, you see everything being changed here. Like one little move the ripple effect can be just incredible in college football.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the same in business, but that's my profession, that's my business, and I think coaches look at it, and when you're out of a job, you're always looking at it a little bit closer, Scotty, and you're like, okay, well, you start seeing the ripple effect, and so certainly as big a job as Utah and Michigan are, that was not a small, that was a big ripple effect that affected a lot of coaches and their lives and their families and support staff and strength coaches. And let's keep the players in mind. So now it changes the players' dynamic in terms of a recruit or a transfer portal kid that was maybe going to follow that coach or that assistant coach. And so there's always those dominoes. And when a coach is out in the industry or the profession, you actually but you like for those things to happen because it does create jobs and it creates openings because there's a huge ripple effect behind them.
That's Matt Wells coming up. By the way, I did not ask your permission on this.
What?
But I did just tweet out that you were joining the program. And next segment, I'm making you the commissioner of all things college athletics. All right? You are judge and jury.
Oh, geez.
Executioner. You can remake things the way you want. Also, I said if you got questions for Coach, tweet at me, and I will pass on the best ones to you. So it'll be kind of an open segment. Coach gets to remake all of college athletics.
Promotion.
Stop it, Lloyd. Turn that mic on. See that on-off switch there? Let's do it.
Coming up. Down there on the field?
Killing me. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What about punting? How in punting, how is there – we just see the guy kick the ball. What details go into punting in situational football?
I don't even know where we were at. We're talking about punting. Let's go on to something else.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It is the coach, Matt Wells, hanging out with us, offensive coordinator at Kansas State last year, head coach at Utah State and Texas Tech, and has been a staple coaching here in the state of Utah, coaching against teams in the state of Utah for a long time. He's our honorary co-host of the day. The friend of the show. The friend of the show. All right, so I put it out on Twitter. If you got a question for Coach, let me know, and I'll pass them on to you. And so you can remember, this is just like a normal interview. You can go no comment if you want on some of these.
Yeah, but
right?
that's not fair. I mean, come on.
All right.
I mean, you tell coaches that all the time. You can say no comment, but if they say no comment, then A, they're guilty or you get blasted, right? So you need a comment. All right, go for it.
All right.
This better be good, too.
The first one coming in from 801 Sports. How crazy was that game against Utah last year where your offense goes for 400 yards rushing? Have you ever had a game where you've gone for 400 yards and lost?
Well, it wasn't 400. It was 470-something.
But who's counting? 470 yards rushing against the Utah
like
defense,
that.
yeah. Actually,
so
I'm just looking at the box score. It's 472.
Yeah. So the answer to that question is no, I haven't. That's crazy. Man, we had a 10-point lead and lost it in the fourth quarter. That one hurt.
Yeah.
Because I just, so much respect for Utah and their program, and I know how hard it is to play in Rice-Eccles, and haven't won in there very many times, ever. Like that would have been the first one for me personally, and as a player and as an assistant coach and a head coach. Hard place to play. The muss is real. It's a real thing, and they're always good. And we ran the ball well that day, and our guys played well, and Utah found a way to come back and beat us in the fourth quarter.
When you look at a game like that, and things are clicking. As an offensive coordinator, are there moments where you feel like you can't make a bad play call? Like you just feel like you're in a groove? Like players talk about being in the zone. Can you be in the zone as a play caller?
Yeah, I think you can, just like a player. And, that was a game where, and again, just like any game, though, it's never a perfect play call. You can have a perfect play call and not execute it. That was on our players, and I give them all the credit. And they played well, and we ran the ball hard, and I thought we blocked on the perimeter well. And again, just like I always said when I was a head coach, I mean, we scored 47 that day, and it wasn't enough. We need to find a way to score 52 or 53 or whatever one more touchdown is. We didn't score enough that day, and we didn't stay on the field the last series. And had we stayed on the field, we'd have found a way to win. And that's what that's how I think, and that's how I'll always look at it.
You've been around some great quarterbacks. Obviously, you found Jordan Love and coached him up to where he's at now, and you've got Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma that you helped coach, and then Avery Johnson. What was special about Avery? Because he was a gamer too.
Avery's very similar to both those guys you just mentioned, and I think very similar in this way. Tremendous intellect for the game, football junkies. All three of them in their own way, study tape, don't ever need to be told to come into the building extra. They get it. Tremendous rapport in the locker room. Those are all the intangibles that I see that Avery had, just like Dylan and just like Jordan. Different skill sets on the field. Arm talent-wise, I don't know if I'll coach another one ever as good as Jordan.
Was that what really jumped out at you when you first saw him?
Jordan has such great arm talent. He's a strong enough arm. It's accurate, but he's able to layer balls over the second level, and he can throw with anticipation. We call him an anticipatory thrower, but he can anticipate. Dylan Gabriel was like a freaking surgeon. I mean, this dude he threw a tight spiral, a lot of RPMs. Could throw in the wind very, very well, very, very accurate. And then I'm going to coach another 10 years, but I'm sure Jen's counting. But I'll never coach one at probably any faster than Avery. I mean, that kid can flat fly. I mean, he's a low 4.3. He's 22-point-something miles an hour, real talk. Like the guy, if he gets loose in the Big 12, he can hit a home run. The guys in the DBs won't catch him. He can flat run. And I know he got caught right down the street here on an angle, but he can get out and run. And so they all had different physical, prowess about them in different ways. But I think intellectually and emotionally they were very, very similar.
When you're recruiting a quarterback, do you look at just the skill set and say, okay, I'm going to adapt to him, or I'm going to find guys that fit what I want to do?
No, I think probably a little bit of both, but I think nowadays you have to have – I don't know if every kid needs to be deemed a dual threat, but they have to have some escapability. They've got to be able to escape the pocket. They've got to be able to move in the pocket, and that's, I think, can be taught to some degree, but the escapability and stuff, they've got to be able to maneuver. And if you look at any of the great quarterbacks, even the ones in the league, look at Sam Darnold. Would you think Sam Darnold, the Super Bowl champion right now, would you talk about him being a mobile or a dual threat guy? No. Nope. But his best throws last weekend were when he moved in the pocket, and it's ever so slightly moving and finding a way to deliver a ball. You could see that. I mean, Drake May can throw it on the run, and he can move. I mean, obviously you got Pat and Jordan and Josh Allen and all these guys. They all have an ability to either have that comment, oh, he's more athletic than you think, but they have escapability, and I think you have to have that in terms of movement for a quarterback. We could go on and on about all the quarterback capabilities. That's what you were asking about, and so you do have to have it. I also think you have to adapt to the quarterback's strengths and where those are. And you just talk about the three that I've been around for the last three stops for me, not counting Texas Tech, and I had Tyler Shuck, who's now started the last half of the year at the Saints, and then Baron Morton, who's going to get drafted. And they're all different. And you do have to adapt to their strengths, which goes back to, let's talk about A-Rod. I thought he really adapted to Bear's strengths and did a really good job with him and putting him in great positions.
Another question rolling in. If you could, and we talked about you being the commissioner all things college football.
That would never happen.
If you could rewrite the targeting rule, how would you do it?
Oh, you caught me off guard there. I don't know if I'd mess with that one because I think players have adapted and I think coaches have adapted in the way they've coached it and they've taught it. I still think when anything is low, when you're talking about literally 4 feet off the ground and guys are making a play on the ball, and I'm an offensive guy by trade and by nature, but when a defender's going down and they're going, it's 3 feet off the ground, yeah, you're going to hit the guy in the side of the helmet. I mean, it happens all the time. That's the one that I think we have a hard time with. But anything up that's high or up in the air, I think we've done a good job. Well, not we, me, but the coaching industry in terms of coaching that better. And I think players have adapted to it.
I just feel bad because there's sometimes asking an official to try to decipher intent may not be fair for them. But there's sometimes where it's letter of the law. It's contact to the head, but the intent wasn't there.
Right.
And yet that kid's going to miss a half or the first half of the next game, and you just feel sick for him.
I think a lot of those situations are low to the ground in the intent, And so that's my take on it.
Another one. What are the biggest benefits you think Utah State will have in part of the rebuilt Pac-12?
Well, I think you have a lot of same-as.
Yeah.
You have a lot of same-as programs. Okay, first of all, they all have state behind them, right?
Yep.
State schools. But I think you have, outside of maybe Texas State and outside of Washington State and Oregon State, you have a lot of natural rivalries. Fresno State and Utah State have been playing for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Colorado State, right? San Diego State once we got into the Mountain West. So you have some rivalries there, and Boise State, let's not forget them, that are naturally built in. But you have a lot, it's a good coaches. It's going to be a good league. I wish they'd add another member so you don't have to have that flex game at the end. And so maybe they can add another member to get that right. But, man, it'll be a good league.
There's another one rolling in asking about the urban legend. Did you have to save a coach from fainting in the middle of a game?
That's an old Aggie that wrote that in.
Yeah.
Yep, that was Bill Bush, and that was in Hawaii.
So this is true.
That's a true story. If that's what they're referring to, I can't think of another one. That's the
I
first
would
one
imagine.
that comes to my mind. I was in the box. Coach Bush was coaching our safeties. We were in the box, and that was the night Chucky got hit. Concussed.
The Adam Kennedy game.
Yep. Had to go to the hospital. My brother-in-law, in fact, lives in Hawaii. He goes over and visits him in the hospital, if you believe that or not. It's an addendum to that story. But Adam Kennedy comes in, and Turbin went off. Robert Turbin had a great second half, and we came back and won. And that's the game where Adam scored and flipped and did the helicopter right into the end zone. And the last kick of the game, they do the Cal Stanford, right? Flip it back, and we were in the box, and it was an open-air box in Hawaii, and we were both up, and, you're just so emotionally involved, and you're in it, and Bill tensed up and literally just I guess he passed out in my arms, and Bill's a big man, and I slowly lowered him to the ground, and man, he finally came back, and we walked down the ramp, and we were happy Aggies that night.
Wow.
But, actually true story.
When did you overlapped with Bobby Wagner, right?
Yeah, 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
Did you know Bobby was going to be what he ended up being?
No. And anybody nobody can say that. I'm so proud of Bobby Wagner. Who isn't? There's another one-offer guy.
Yeah.
Turbin, I just talked about. Turbin was a two-offer guy. He had an offer to go to Cal as a DB. But Bobby Wagner, that was Brent Guy, signed him, played for Gary most of the time in his career. But, man, I will tell you when it hit us is, not a lot of people know this story, but Bobby had the flu or pneumonia or something like that. Bobby was sick when the combine came around, and he had an invite to the combine, and we all know there's not a ton of Utah State guys that get combine invites, at least up until that point. And so Coach Anderson did a great job and had another pro day for him later on where a lot of the scouts and coaches came, and Bobby ran back-to-back low 4.4s in that day in the indoor up in Logan, and we all looked at each other and said, cha-ching ching. The guy just got paid and obviously got taken in the second round. But to say he's he's the top 10. I think he's like 6th or 7th on the top 10 career tackles in the NFL.
He's a first ballot guy, easy.
It's so awesome. And how cool was that to see him with the Man of the Year award? What a speech the night before or whenever it was. But it was cool for me to see because I saw a picture on Twitter of when he was accepting the award. Jordan was right behind him.
Yeah.
And so you got 2 Aggies that were the recipients of the Man of the Year, if I'm saying that right, NFL Man of the Year for their respective teams. Obviously, Bobby won the NFL, but to have Jordan standing right behind him, you got 2 Aggie alums right there, and the 32 is a proud moment for all of us.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
That's cool.
It was
That's way cool.
Really cool moment. Let's see. We got another one coming in here. Your favorite game coaching at Utah State?
Oh, man. So many of them.
Can I tell you one that doesn't come up a lot, but I was always super impressed with? The bowl game against Northern Illinois.
Well, that's, Jordan Lynch had just come from the Heisman ceremony, and that was the top 25 win. You always remember the top 25 wins. The other 2 were BYU. Not that I remember all 3 of them, but I do. But no, to beat them 21-14 in the Poinsettia Bowl, Rod Carey, head coach at Northern Illinois at the time, who's a good friend of mine, that was a great win for us. Awesome. I would say the win in Provo in 2014 when BYU was a top 25 team and had again another backup quarterback, Darryl Garrettson, and we were big underdogs and we won 35-20. And not that I remember that, but I do exactly. I think I'm right on that one. The win in Provo in 17 and in 2018. I know you beat BYU in back-to-back years in 2017, 2018. And I say it all the time to my buddies and coaches that have come through Utah State. That wagon wheel was in the Lob Complex when we left. And that was a source of pride for all of us, is that wagon wheel. So I think the 3 wins in my 6 years there against BYU, the 2015 Boise State win when we had 7 turnovers. Of course, we only beat BYU once. I'm not real proud of that.
Or Boise once.
Boise once. My bad. I am proud of the win. I'm not proud that we didn't beat them more than once, but that win in 2015 was huge. Fackrell and Jalen Davis and Marwin Evans and all the turnovers we had that night, that was a big win. I remember the 2012, and I was the coordinator. Dave Aranda, who's the head coach at Baylor now, was the defense coordinator. We beat Utah in Logan in overtime. I know I wasn't the head coach, Gary was, but that was a big win for that. That's a big program win up there. And so been a part of a lot of those good wins.
How much fun is it watching Dave Aranda and what he's been able to do? And I know it's been kind of up and down a little bit in Baylor, but he's just a heck of a coach. Yeah,
he's a really good coach. He's the wizard on defense, and Dave's a good friend, and I wish him nothing but the best. And we've got to compete against him. The years that I was, a couple of the years that I was at Texas Tech, my daughter now works for him. Down there, and so I wish him nothing but the best. But he's an excellent coach, and they're going to have a good year. I know a lot of those guys on the staff, and I think they're going to rebound and have a good year.
Another one rolling in. Do you anticipate that the NFL kickoff rules will come to college?
Probably, yeah, because I think if the safety, and I don't pretend to know the answer right now or what the study will show, but I know so much of it was player health in the injuries. If they show reduced amounts of injuries, certainly kickoff return is a huge. When you talk about that, it falls in that player safety area, in concussions and those kind of injuries. If those numbers are down in the NFL, I would certainly say that you could probably see that coming in some sort of fashion to college football.
This is kind of like Kyle Whittingham used to say this all the time, and I still think it's probably true, but he goes, there's going to come a moment where your P4s and maybe even the Big Ten and the SEC just separate from everybody. But the P4, or maybe they form a 60-team Super League and everybody else is on the outside looking in. Do you see that coming down the line?
I don't know. That's been floated around for a long time, and it hasn't happened yet. I would have thought it would have happened by now, so maybe that ship has sailed. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, one more segment with Coach Wells coming up next. We'll wrap up this bad boy. It's a quick 3 hours, right?
Oh, it's fun.
I know,
this
right?
Is good.
It's can't even call it working.
Just talking ball.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, wrapping up another edition of the show. Big thanks to everyone who hung out with us. No more than Matt Wells, though. We can't thank you enough for being a part of the show. And, we got to do this again sometime.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
I know you're only in for a couple days, but next time you're in town, you let me know, and we'll make it happen.
We'll be back in a few weeks, I think. But another gymnastics, I think maybe for the Big 12s.
Okay.
When the Big 12s aren't they here? Yeah. You should know. Come on.
We don't really break down a lot of gymnastics on the show.
Well, I guess I'm not getting paid anything today, am I? I was going to say I don't get paid to plug the Red Rocks, but dang it, they're good. Those ladies can can compete, and I don't know if it's the holy war tonight, but man, I've got so much respect for those gymnasts and those ladies, and it is, man, what they put their bodies through in that sport, and it's crazy. They're tough. They're tough chicks. I know that.
Yeah. Coach, thanks so much, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Scotty. Appreciate you, man.
That's Matt Wells. Have a great weekend. Back with you on Tuesday right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.